Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you all doing today? I read something interesting. I read something very interesting. Let's see if I can find it for you. This is an article about how companies can improve their advertising approaches. And it talks about their advertising approaches on social media. And here's what it says. Here's what one researcher found, that okay. Well, okay, that's embarrassing because I can't find it. But it makes the interesting claim that the best way to be effective in advertising something on social media is to act like an informative friend, a friend who is concerned or interested in your well-being and who wants to give you the information pertinent to your well-being. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here because I'm looking at information, and I'm looking at information that sure, to the best of my ability, that this information is relayed to you. There's a quote. There's one sentence in the first page of Tolstoy's War and Peace that really strikes me as, interestingly, very good description of 2018 political climate. So here we go. Can one be calm in times like these if one has any feeling? I'll read that again. Can one be calm in times like these if one has any feeling? It's a very good question. I feel strangely calm at the moment, but I think that calmness is, I think the reason I feel a calmness is because I feel like I'm doing something that at least puts me on the record as being on the right side of things and doing what I believe I can to make this world, make this country a little bit better at a time when we're in the midst of a national emergency. We're in a crisis. I just want to say hello to David and Darlene. It's been a very long time. I hope that you are doing really well. And I appreciate both of you taking the time to listen to my little, my filibuster here, if you will. So I want to talk about the news, and I want to talk about the facts about what's happening with President Trump and what's happening with Congress. And I want to make sure that we're talking about things very objectively, because I notice, especially my critics, a lot of my critics and Trump supporters are saying very weird things. Dawn, hi, hello. It's nice that you're so kind as to take a moment and listen to what I might have to say. So I appreciate it. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I notice a lot of Trump supporters, when we present facts to them, I note that they say that's not a fact. And this is astonishing to me. I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. I don't know what their psychological process is. And I don't know what the psychological process is with the Republicans in Congress. Oh, you're so nice, Dawn. You give such a nice comment. I really appreciate it. Ashley and I miss you. Poor Ashley, she's at work. She's working like a 15, 16-hour shift today. It's brutal. God bless our nurses. God bless our nurses. God bless everyone who provides a service, right? And that's what this has to do with. That's a key element of this. If we talk about the people who work for our government, in particular, what's especially relevant is the people who work for our national intelligence services. They're people like you and I, and they have a job that is to watch the world and watch our national security, make sure that we're safe, and to identify threats. Whoa, Nick! Oh my goodness! Hi, I'm so I'm touched that you would care to listen for a second here. So hi to you, and it's very nice of you to listen for a second. I was just talking about our national intelligence community and the service that they do. Their job is to watch and see, are there any threats to our government? And here's the thing, they're saying there's a threat. They're saying there's a huge threat. And what does Donald Trump have to say about that? This is something that we need to talk about. Trump, you can read this, it's on the Washington Post, or you can read it from The Hill, thehill.com. Trump says Russia doesn't pose a threat, contradicting intelligence director. So beyond all other things, let's think about that for a second. The head of our intelligence, the person whose job it is to coordinate, the efforts that keep this country safe and keep eyes on threats to our country, is saying, Mr. President, there are threats, including Russia. And what does Trump say? No, there's not. Ladies and gentlemen, how would you describe this? It's, I've got a comment from Nick. Nick says, absolutely, bro. Glad to see you're still very much into politics. Nick, that's really nice of you. I appreciate it. It's nice to see you. It's been a really long time. I want to talk about this when the head of national intelligence says one thing and the president says another. This fact, right? We're talking about facts. We're talking about objectivity versus spin. The Republicans and the Trump supporters are refusing to acknowledge this, and they're refusing to acknowledge that this is problematic. Now, we have a responsibility to speak out about this. Look, believe it or not, I don't want to spend my Wednesday evening live streaming on Facebook. I'd rather be reading or watching TV or something. I don't want to have to beg people to call Congress and demand that they impeach the president, but I feel that I have to do this. I feel that we all must pick a platform, a way to talk to other people and say, hey man, do you realize that the president is ignoring the intelligence community and that therefore he doesn't have our national security in his mind? Our security is threatened. We're in trouble. We have a major problem. We have to do this if we're going to be responsible. It's about being responsible. I guess the thing is, it's very rare in our country's history where we have to act in this way. In many ways, it's unprecedented. I guess you'd have to go back to look at something like the Revolutionary War. And when the Revolutionary War occurred, right, we were a British colony, or we were a series of British colonies, and the British government was oppressive. They were murdering innocent US colonists. They had very, very restrictive taxes and regulations, and we said, we the people, right? We had to take responsibility and say, Austin, hello. It is very kind of you to spend a second to listen to a few points that I wanted to make this evening. I was talking about the Revolutionary War and how unique that was a time in history, and how in some ways it relates to what's happening today. Because that was a time when people had to make a decision. They had to take responsibility for a political problem, a huge political problem. And they had to say, frankly, they were willing to risk their lives to fight to push England out of the Great Britain out of our land. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly what's going on with the Russia situation, but to be clear, Austin, I imagine you could really appreciate this because I know you're into security and you're into how we handle emergency situations. Certainly, if you have a comment, please, I want to hear your point of view on this. But we have the head of intelligence saying, Mr. President, Russia is a threat to our cybersecurity. And the president saying, no, there's no threat. Mr. Putin told me so, and Mr. Putin is powerful and great. To me, that's textbook for not properly acknowledging a situation. It's so blatant that I think people are, I don't know, not wrapping their heads around it or something. I'm trying to find a way to put it in terms as simple as possible, because Trump supporters and Republicans are refusing to look at this situation. They don't want to see it. And frankly, still a sizable number of Americans who maybe they are not Republicans or even Trump supporters, but frankly, I don't believe there's enough alarm yet. There's not enough people demanding Congress to look at what's happening. And we need to call Congress and we need to say, the president is contradicting our intelligence. Therefore, first of all, trying to delegitimize our intelligence. But secondly, if our intelligence sees something bad and the president doesn't do anything, we could get hurt. And the president will have aided and abetted in that attack. That's any list of crimes, right? That's certainly treason. That's also obstruction of justice, which President Trump has done in numerous instances. Abuse of power. This is serious stuff. And I guess questions people might ask, like what dangerous thing could happen if Trump doesn't listen to our national security and our national intelligence officers? It scares me to try to answer that question, but we're talking about facts, right? So what about this fact then? And this is relevant to that question. When Trump met with Putin for like 2 hours, I think it was, who was in the room? Not the Secretary of State, not the Vice President, not any US diplomat to Russia. It was Trump. I believe Trump had a translator. It was Putin, and Putin had a translator. What did Trump say to Vladimir Putin? What did Putin say to Trump? And why was it emphatic to keep it off the record? And what could Trump have said? Now, forgive me for being sounding alarmist, but could Trump have given Putin information that could be used to hurt us? And I hate to say this. I hate to have this nightmare, but Austin, maybe you understand how this works better than I ever could. But how does the president has nuclear codes? Could the president theoretically give Putin our nuclear codes, or could he give Putin information pertaining to our nuclear infrastructure? Or could he give what kind of information might the president be giving Putin? I mean, someone could argue, oh, they just wanted to shoot the breeze and, without the added pressure of other individuals. But here's what doesn't ring true based on my understanding. And I've spoken with political political science professor about this and a history professor, and it would appear this is unprecedented, that it's not a norm, it's not a practice that the president goes to meet with someone else, another foreign leader, and have no one else in the room. That's my understanding. Drew, wow, it's so kind of you to take a moment and listen to what I have to say. That's really nice of you. I hope you're having a fantastic summer, sir. I'm talking about Trump's meeting with Putin, and why was there only Trump, his translator, Putin, and Putin's translator, and what happened? Because we have no notes of what was said there, what could have been said, what should we worry about what might have been said? And that information, by the way, that needs to be relayed to Congress, that's a legitimate concern. And I was saying that's unprecedented in US history, and for good reason. It's important to be able to take notes on what happened, for example, for a number of reasons, right? On the one hand, you want to make sure that for history's sake, or for the sake of foreign policy analysis, you can't properly analyze something if you haven't taken notes so that you can look back at them and say, what can we infer from this? So, God, even at the most innocent level, supposing Trump just wanted to shoot the breeze with Mr. Putin, and supposing that, I don't know, they just wanted to have intimacy. Yes, and I have to make a joke here. I think that kind of intimacy is Putin taking his whip and whipping Trump behind there. I'm not very good at dirty jokes, forgive me. And it's not my original joke. A coworker said it to me, so putting it out there. And I think there's a meme that has that too. But okay, so we're talking about, shouldn't there be notes taken at a meeting between Trump and Putin, at the very least, so that Trump can take those notes back and discuss what happened with Secretary of State, whose job it kind of is to manage foreign policy, maybe members of Congress who are part of the Committee on Foreign Relations, is it? So Trump, wow, gaffe central there. Trump is withholding necessary information from his government and from the American people. Jenny, my God, has it been a long time? Adam, wow, talk about a really long time. I think it's been, 2004, I graduated high school, 2003, 2004, that's a lot of years. I hope that all is well. And all of you, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me talk about the issue relating to the threat that President Trump poses. And what I was talking about was the fact that he has this meeting with Putin and he doesn't take any notes. The only people in the room are him, Putin, and their two translators. There are no notes. And why would he not want to have the advantage of having those notes so that he can confer with our top foreign policy thinkers and think about how we deal with Russia? He doesn't want that to happen. Putin doesn't want that to happen. That means Putin wants special control over that aspect of our foreign policy. And Trump is acting on Putin's behalf, which, put another way, means that Putin is kind of like a puppet master, sort of holding the strings like this and moving Trump to do what he wants Trump to do, which means we as a country have actually lost part of our sovereignty. An unacceptable thing. We've lost our sovereignty. We've lost control over our own foreign policy. And we have had taken from us not just control, but knowledge of our foreign policy actions. So, yeah, I'd ask you to call Congress and say that's wrong and that the president should be impeached for that behavior. It's treasonous and it's a threat to our national security. What if Russia wants to do something more violent? Or you might argue, oh, Russia doesn't want to start a war. Maybe, maybe not. It's another discussion for another time. But notice he does want to harm us in a way that's new, psychological, very 21st century, though Russians have been thinking about it for a long time, actually. But that's new for us. And that is messing with the head of people, messing with their heads in such a way that they don't interact or function properly. Right? So to put aside the issue, so to delve more into the issue of our national intelligence community, when Mr. Trump says our national intelligence community is wrong, Putin is right, now Americans have to choose. Who do we trust? Do we trust President Trump and Vladimir Putin, or do we trust our Congress and our intelligence community? And notice how that's been injected into a partisan political context to mean, oh, well, if I lean really Republican and I want, Roe versus Wade overturned, and I want to make sure that abortion is illegal, and I want to cut the taxes even more, and I want harsher immigration policy, well, I really want that to happen. So, yeah, I don't know about this whole Trump-Putin thing, but I want that to happen, so I've got to defend Trump. Versus the people who say this is blatant treason. And now you have people saying, I don't know if our national intelligence is accurate. Maybe we can't trust them. Maybe Putin is really looking out for us, and this Putin-Trump alliance is really a good thing. What happens when you have these two mindsets debate each other? Well, I'll tell you what's happening, because I've been talking to Trump supporters, and this is what they tell me. They tell me I'm delusional. They say to me, when I say that Trump says that Russia is not a threat and that they're not attacking our cyber infrastructure, they say, no, there's no crime there. There's nothing wrong there. There's no there. Excuse my language, but somebody might call that like a mind fuck, right? When you're literally presenting information to someone and they just go like this, right? Like if I say, this is War and Peace by Tolstoy, that's what it is. It's a book. And they say, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. And you live in a culture where the objective people have to try to reason and debate, say in Congress, against each other. What do we do? What do we do? I mean, all I can say is we've got to put the information out there, and we've got to put the pressure on Congress, and we've got to talk to each other about this. By the way, if any of you have something to say, have it said. Have it said on the comments thing if you want to say something. Your opinion is important. Your opinions are more important than ever, because we the people are the ones who are going to save this country. And that's why I was talking about the Revolutionary War before, because we've never been in a situation, I don't think, again, any of you who know your history better than I do, tell me if I'm wrong, I can't think of a time when neither Congress nor the president acted when we were threatened, when our national security was threatened, right? 9/11, we came together. World War II, we came together. I mean, there were people on the fringes who were anti-war, but it didn't sow this kind of discord like we're seeing today. The last time we didn't come together, right, was the Civil War, when a bunch of states left the country and said, we're not America, we're our own government. I mean, God, is that the kind of thing that might happen here? And I hate to ask that kind of question, but what's happening in our country right now is freakish. It's like to use, new internet lingo, like WTF. That's my interpretation. If you guys think I'm wrong, by all means, please tell me why you think that. But that's how I'm perceiving things. You see, I'm so bothered and wigged out by what's going on that the only thing I can think to do is like talk to you in person as much as possible. And that means doing the live stream thing on Facebook. I think it's more effective than just typing something that you may or may not see on your newsfeed. You won't see the emotion. You know, this is an emotional situation. It makes me anxious, to be honest with you. Makes me want to have a drink. So that's the thing. So in terms of actions, right? What do we do? Honestly, we have to call our members of Congress. I don't know if you guys have, I don't know if you're familiar with that process, if it's something you just feel is a useless thing. I'll tell you though, it's actually not useless. If you don't know, here's what happens. When we call, they actually write down the policy that we want and they log it. They have they have like this software where it's like it keeps track of the data so that basically the elected official can basically say, well, okay, so if I do this, I'll probably get reelected because they liked that and most people wanted that. So that means that in theory, and you know, this requires Congress having some conscious, I know, a laughable thing, right? Sadly. God, I hate feeling that cynical. I really do. But that maybe gives them some conscience. And if they have some conscience and they think, well, it would get me reelected to impeach the president, I've got no choice. That gives us the power. That gives us the power. And look, I think that's what happened with Watergate and Nixon. I think in a different way, the people rose. There was a lot of protests and the people basically demanded it. And that's what we have to do. We have to demand that Trump be impeached. The difference is this situation is like a lot worse than Watergate. First of all, right, in Watergate, you had regular criminals, regular American criminals break into a hotel room owned by Democrats, the Democratic National Committee. And the criminals came in and just stole some stuff. Okay, I mean, that's an awful thing. It's theft. It's a way to mess up an election. It's unfair, right? And that's bad. And then covering it up, as Nixon did, that was bad. And, you know, obstructing justice when people attempted to investigate it, that was bad. But what would it have been if Russians came into the country and then broke in to the Democratic National Headquarters hotel room or hotel building or whatever it was? I don't know the story of Watergate in like minutia detail, just the essentials. But okay, so that's kind of closer to what happened here, right? It's more cerebral and abstract because it all happened online, but Russians hacked into the computers and email accounts of people working for Democratic National Committee, and even, you know, Hillary Clinton and people who are actively politicians. And interestingly, if you don't know, if you haven't heard it, by the way, the very day that Donald Trump went on television and said, hey, Russia, if you're listening, I sure hope you can find those 30,000 emails of Hillary Clinton's. That day, ladies and gentlemen, that day, they did it. Russia did it that day, as if it was an order from Trump, like a signal saying, go ahead. And I urge you to actually look at that video. It was July 27th, 2016. If you watch that video on YouTube, he sounds weird when he says it. It's strangely like as if he knows it's a code and he knows it's like a agreed upon thing that he's meant to say. He says it like that. It sounds that way, really, if you listen. And my critics will say you're just speculating, so I won't insist upon this, but it is a mind-blowing coincidence. And not only is it a mind-blowing coincidence, Moreover, the president thinks he claimed it was just a joke. It was just a joke to invite the Russians to steal Hillary Clinton's private email, which was totally illegal. When presidents joke about criminal behavior blatantly before the world, I mean, that's highly inappropriate to me and not befitting of a president. I mean, I think that's impeachable on ethical grounds. By the way, another fun fact, I don't know if you know this, you should tell your friends this, but you don't have to actually break the law to be impeached, and that's a fact. 2/3 of the impeachments in the United States. So you don't only impeach a president, you can impeach a vice president, you can impeach a judge, for example. So we've had a lot of judges impeached, not a lot, but a fair number of them. And 2/3 of those instances were not legal. They were not impeached for legal reasons. They were impeached for ethical reasons. And they were impeached for like matters of incompetence. They're not capable of actually doing the job. They're not capable of it. So, you know, in the realm of ethics in itself, Trump is already impeachable. You can bring in the legal elements of it. He's in violation of the emoluments clause, for example. He takes money, profits from people, foreign government officials who stay at his hotels and try to affect his mind, influence his mind and his policy-making decisions. That's unconstitutional. It's utterly unconstitutional and unethical. So illegal and unethical. Most illegal things are unethical. Most, not all, but that's another conversation, another time. I don't want to digress. I just want to make the point that our president needs to go. Our president needs to be impeached. And my purpose here is to make that case as clearly as possible. Whoa, Megan Fitzpatrick, my God. It has been a really long time. Hello. It is extremely nice of you to take a moment to listen to what I have to say. I don't know what you have heard or have not heard, but I'm talking about the impeachment of President Trump. And I'm saying it needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. I'm saying we're in a national emergency. And I don't mean to sound like we're hyping, hey, I don't mean to sound, like I'm not trying to sound dramatic. That's the irony of the situation. The irony is I want to be as cold and dry as possible. But the situation to me is dramatic. And to replay for Megan, because she may not have heard what I was getting at, why this started, not why it started, but the number one point, the most important point is this. The head of our national intelligence community, as you may have heard, told the president that Russia is attacking us in our cyber infrastructure and that they're a threat. Trump says they're no threat. Putin says so. Which means that the intelligence community, he's disregarding, not on a rational or objective, factual basis, but on the basis of Vladimir Putin. Which means if our national security and our national intelligence identifies something in particular and says, Mr. President, you need to look at this, and he says, no, 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 that is dangerous for this country. God knows what could happen. So if we care about like our safety, our basic safety, we should probably call Congress and say, we're really kind of freaking out because the President of the United States is not paying attention to openly stated intelligence, national security concerns. So I'm urging everybody to please call your members of Congress and demand that they impeach the president. Your voice does count. They literally tally who wants what. They have a computer system that does that. The phone call doesn't have to be complicated. I'll tell you what I usually do. First, I have the numbers written down. I have it in my notebook. I know, for example, that my the representative, right? So for those of you who don't know, maybe all of you do, I don't know, but you always assume your reader knows nothing, they say in grade school, right? So we have, each of us has one representative. That person serves at the House of Representatives. And then each of us has 2 senators, right? So if you live in New Jersey, for example, like me, Robert Menendez and Cory Booker, they are your senators. I'm going to give you their phone numbers too. And I'll type them too. So Menendez can be reached at 202-224-4744. That's Senator Robert Menendez. And I will type that in. Menendez, 202-224-4744. So there's one senator you all can call if you wish. Our other senator, Cory Booker, and I'll give you that number in a second. Now, by the way, Senate cannot impeach the president. The House of Representatives has to do that. However, when the president is impeached, there's a trial in the Senate, and the Senate therefore decides whether the president will be removed or not be removed. It's never happened before in our history. This should be the first time. It ought to be the first time. So when you call your senator, you say, I understand that it is not the responsibility of the Senate to impeach the president. However, the Senate has a responsibility to urge the House of Representatives to impeach the president immediately because he is blatantly ignoring national security threats brought to his attention by our national intelligence community and the head of our national intelligence. It's very important. And you say, we demand that Senator Booker, we demand that Senator Menendez urge our House of Representatives to impeach the president now. So I gave you Menendez. Booker, Senator Cory Booker, 202, Booker first. Booker, 202-224-3224. So Cory Booker, 202-224-3224. Each of you is going to have a different representative, right? Because they're not done by state, they're done by legislative district, cluster of towns. My congresswoman, and if you live in the 12th legislative district of New Jersey, I don't know all the towns off the top of my head, but Megan, for example, I don't know if you still live in West Windsor, but she represents West Windsor, she represents Princeton, she represents Trenton, she represents East Windsor, and I think Hamilton and Ewing. So if you're in any of those towns, you can contact Bonnie Watson Coleman. Good news with respect to Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. And I'm going to tell you, she does support the impeachment of the president. She has voted already in a prior attempt to impeach the president. She voted yes. So there's not much arguing that needs to be done with her. She just needs to be reminded that the demand is there. In fact, there's more demand now than there ever was. And that's a fact. And very briefly, I'm actually going to read you a list of names of people who are calling public people, prominent people who are demanding Trump's impeachment. This is a thing. I'm not trying to be like a fringe dude and get attention. I'm kind of like scared and trying to convince people that we need the president to be impeached. So if it so happens that your member of Congress, your representative, is Bonnie Watson Coleman, here's her number, 202-225-5801. I'll type that out for you as well. Coleman, 202-225-5801. So that's something we can do. We can call our members of Congress. There's also another number we can call. So in the House of Representatives, the way impeachment starts, if it so happens, it happens in the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee, right? So each of us has a different understanding of how Congress works. I'm not an expert on how Congress functions. However, I can tell you this: each member of Congress serves on a committee of other people in Congress, and there's not one big committee. There's a bunch of different committees, and one such committee in the House of Representatives is the Judiciary Committee. And so what you can do is you can actually call the Judiciary Committee. This is the committee in the House of Representatives. If the president is going to be impeached, that's who does it. The members of Congress on that committee. The number for the Judicial Committee is 202-225-3951. That's the Judiciary Committee, 202-225-3951. That's where impeachment starts. If they hear that you demand it, well, the more they hear, more people demand it. Congress, members of Congress think they're not going to get reelected. They may freak out. So let them know. And I'll type that out. Judiciary Committee, where impeachment starts, 202-225-3951. Okay. So I told you I'd give you a list of names of people who support impeachment, who are calling for impeachment, and who are demanding it. Really, one of the most surprising, very surprising, there is a Republican. Yes, you heard right. There is a Republican demanding Trump's impeachment. He's a state senator. This is where it gets really surprising. I get a lot of joy out of this. A state senator from Texas who is a Republican. Yes, you heard it right. A Republican lawmaker from Texas is demanding that Donald Trump be impeached. I'll read you a blurb here. This is from The Hill, thehill.com. That is a website and newspaper that publishes articles, everything politics, especially Congress in particular. So this Republican state lawmaker, his name is Jason Villalba. It's hard to pronounce. Jason Villalba, I think is how you pronounce it. He actually wrote an editorial demanding that Trump be impeached. He wrote an editorial in the Texas Tribune. So he's not just merely going on Twitter and saying it. He felt this Republican from Texas, this Republican lawmaker from Texas, felt so passionate and compelled that the president of the United States must be impeached that he wrote an editorial about it. It's huge. Here's what he says, so that you know I'm not just the only person out there who's demanding impeachment. It's not a fringe thing. It's a national thing. People who watch politics really closely are freaked out and are demanding impeachment. And yeah, I hate to sound like a dramatic millennial, but no, people are freaking out in the, I hate to use the word geek, but if there's such thing as like a politics geek, objective politics geeks are freaking out because they're scared. And we read what Jason Villalba, Republican state lawmaker in Texas, wrote in the Texas Tribune. Since Donald Trump has been president, he alone has increased the national debt by over $1 trillion. Maybe we don't care about that. Yes, $1 trillion. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I didn't get the good comments about our national security. I apologize. I did this sort of I did it very, doing a lot of things. I have work and I have school. So I'm kind of juggling a number of things. But I have his name. Okay. There's a Democrat from Texas. So you know what? For all of the flack that Texas gets, let me tell you, we have people left and right from Texas on record demanding that the president be impeached. That's remarkable. That's remarkable. I can get why people feel proud to be Texans. I get it. And I am proud of you, Texas, today. So this is a member of Congress who represents part of Texas. His name is Beto O'Rourke. So Representative Beto O'Rourke of Texas. And here's what he says. Standing on the stage in another country with the leader of another country who wants to and has sought to undermine this country and side with him over the United States, if I were asked to vote on this, I would vote to impeach the president. That's what he told the Dallas Morning News. I'm going to link you. Is that a thing? Do people say that? I'm going to link you? I don't know. You can see I don't get out much. But there, for those of you who are interested. Again, so substantiating this claim that I'm saying, we need to call Congress and demand impeachment of the president. Okay, another name. Some of these names you're probably not going to find that surprising. For example, Michael Moore. I mean, we all know Michael Moore is like a super liberal who was sounding the alarms, always sounding the alarms about things. But still, I mean, he's an American, he has an opinion, he counts, and he says important things and explores important things. And in his explorations and examinations, he deduces that Trump needs to be impeached. I'm gonna link to you here, give you some information about what he said, though, so that you have it. Again, it's important for us to have the facts, to know what people are saying about this. So yeah, Michael Moore says, Congress needs no more proof than Trump's admission yesterday that he sides with Putin to impeach and remove him. He says no hearings are needed. Fast action is a must. The House should vote to impeach and the Senate should hold the trial. Those who don't act should be tossed November 6th. In my opinion, he put that quite well. Amen. But that's not the only one. Okay, so do you know who Cynthia Nixon is? She's running for governor of New York, and she's a Tony Award-winning actress. Also, she issued a statement yesterday calling for Trump's impeachment. So put that out there for you as well. Those are some names. I do have another name. I wrote it down because I heard it on, I guess, on the news the other day. Adam Smith, Representative Adam Smith. I want to say representative of Washington or Oregon, but honestly, I forgot. I apologize to you. However, nonetheless, that individual has called for impeachment. Steve Cohen, Representative Steve Cohen, is calling for Trump's impeachment. And actually, when I had called Bonnie Watson Coleman's office, they said Steve Cohen's like one of the key guys on this. Another member of Congress is Representative Al Green. Al Green is demanding the impeachment of the president. So look, it's not like, I'm trying to think of an analogy of what my critics might say. You know, like the Green Party? The Green Party is viewed as like very fringe or radical or out there, like the Libertarian Party or the Constitutional Party, etc. I'm not trying to be that kind of person. I'm not trying to get anybody's attention. I'm not. Well, I am trying to get your attention, but I'm not wanting the world to say, look at Sean. Quite the opposite. I'd really rather write all this, but it's my understanding that Facebook puts videos on news feeds more than other things. That's what my research found. So I'm just trying to be the most effective activist as I can at this time. I see that there are some comments here. It says 15 comments. Okay, just making sure I didn't miss anything somebody might have said. It's only showing certain comments. Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't disregard anybody, because I don't want to be that kind of person. So I think we've laid down the following, right? We've talked about what must be done. We must call the House of Representatives. We must call our senators. We must demand that Trump be impeached. And beyond all of the other impeachable offenses, his treason is kind of the most alarming and the one that requires the most attention, and it requires attention now. It requires attention now. I've got to plug in my computer. Bear with me for a second. Forgive me as I do this. I don't really know the art of the live stream at all. I don't know what makes a live stream cool or interesting or liked or any of that. Frankly, I don't care right now. I just want to open up with you and talk to you about this. That's it. Because, again, I'm not trying to sound like I'm crazy or like, weird. I'm not trying to be that kind of person. I'm not trying to talk about something that should be addressed like sometime down the line, but not now, not really important. I'm not trying to sound like someone who has crazy political ideas. I've had crazy political ideas in the past, which I regret deeply. Megan's still watching, and if Jenny's still watching, and Nick Dacey, when they knew me, I was like a crazy libertarian. And you guys were always so nice to me, and you guys are always such a pleasure to work with. Hope you know that. Always loved working with you guys. Smart guys you are. But the point I'm trying to get across here is that I don't want to come across as saying something that doesn't need to be said, if that makes sense. That's not what I'm trying to do. And this is kind of embarrassing, so hard to say. Not because I feel I need to be like a macho guy or, these feelings conversations, yeah, it's true. I'm actually a pretty sensitive person, to tell you the truth. So I'm not trying to come across also, like, I'm not trying to come across as hypersensitive at all. Would much rather be the opposite. Not that I want to be callous, but I want to be poised and rational in my presentation of this commentary, this conversation. I'm just really trying to talk to you. And so that as someone trying to talk to you, as we're Facebook friends, right? So we're Facebook friends telling each other how we feel. I feel scared. I genuinely feel scared, and I don't think it's unfounded. You'll see, again, I don't know how much TV you watch, but policy experts are on TV saying they're scared. They're on TV saying they're alarmed. They're on TV saying this is an emergency. And God, I hate to use that language, emergency, because when you think emergency, you think sirens and like evacuation or something like that, right? Or like Hurricane Katrina, or the hurricane that hit Texas back in the fall of last year. But again, our leaders are using the term emergency. That should chill, I think, the nerves of everybody. It is chilling, and I mean chill, like chill. I mean like, whoa. So like, I'm scared. I'm genuinely frightened, and feeling kind of anxious. And this anxiety is like really weird. It's political anxiety. Political anxiety is a new thing for me, I think. Like real political anxiety. You see, the thing is, I've been so bothered and scared today in the last few days that it's been almost impossible to do my homework, and it's been almost impossible to function effectively at work. That's not good. And that maybe that's a shortcoming on my part. Like I don't know, obsessive compulsive disorder or something, maybe. what you could argue that perspective, but you could also argue I have pretty good grounds to suggest that any rational person would be feeling kind of anxious right now. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you ever watched Rachel Maddow, but Rachel doesn't pontificate. Rachel doesn't really give you her opinion. She's an opinion talk show host, but her style is she just reports. She just reports the facts and comes to very logical conclusions about those facts. And here's what she said. I was watching Rachel Maddow the other day, and she begins her show like this. I don't think I've ever seen her do it. She says, okay, deep breath. I think we all need to just take a deep breath and relax for a second. And she takes her deep breath. Think about the psychology of that. We shouldn't have to live in a country where people feel that way. I don't know how you guys feel. I don't know if I'm talking to a wall. I don't know if I'm talking to critics. I don't know if I'm talking to the choir. I do not know where you folks exactly stand on these issues. However, I'm hoping that I'm capable of convincing you to call your members of Congress and to call the Senate and to demand that the president be impeached. So yeah, there's that element of this. And look, I'm doing the what do you call it? Like the filibuster approach. I'm not actually expecting you to listen to me go on and on and on. Maybe you come in and you listen for 2 seconds and then you leave. But I want to keep this going because I want to pull a like what they call in Congress the filibuster. That is, I just want to go on for as long as I can, arguing that Trump should be impeached and have that argument presented to as many people as possible. Thus, should you feel inclined to share the video, tell your friends to watch, I mean, it would be like a good thing. But not that they have to watch. I don't care if if people just happen to watch and then leave. If you took from this video, this live stream, that Trump needs to be impeached, because Trump absolutely needs to be impeached. He's a treasonist. He's ignoring our national intelligence. He's threatening our national security, and he is a threat to the security of this nation. And Congress must take responsibility for upholding the Constitution of the United States and for looking out for our safety and remove the president immediately. It's not even like we need to wait for the Mueller investigation to end. We don't need to wait for 2008 for the midterm elections. I don't believe that. I disagree with people who say wait for the midterms. I say that we can compel our Congress to act now because they must, and we must have the moral consciences to make them understand this important thing. That's how I feel. Obviously, I've made it abundantly clear, but like I said, going to keep trying to look at this from different angles until I've, I guess, exhausted myself. So why don't we talk about what's on the news here? Washington Post reports that the White House attempts to clarify Trump's response to whether Russia is still targeting US elections. Think about that headline in itself. What are the implications of that headline? White House attempts to clarify Trump's response. That alone, let's think about that. You must be a very bad communicator and a very bad president if your thoughts and comments and positions are not clear. I'm sorry, but I believe that to be true. Those of you who are Trump supporters. So to be clear, our president is basically so incompetent. He's so incompetent that The White House needs to clarify his response to whether Russia is still targeting US elections. Now, think about this. This is what makes the situation really chilling. This is what makes the situation really chilling. So the president needs to clarify his position on something which, in fact, members of Congress and the intelligence community have already said. In other words, Trump is saying, mysteriously, I have a better look at this than you do. Even though the fact is, the president gets his information from the national intelligence. So where's he getting his information from? Well, he says he's getting his information from Vladimir Putin. Wait, Vladimir Putin, who murders journalists who criticize him? That Vladimir Putin? You're trusting his information? Vladimir Putin, the one who used to work for the KGB and has learned how to fuck with people's heads and is actually doing so? That Vladimir Putin? Vladimir Putin, who took his military into Crimea, part of Ukraine, and stole the entire area and made it Russia? That's the guy whose intelligence you trust, right? So in other words, we use a little bit of analysis here. Trump trusts information from a guy who's belligerent and sadistic and evil and does not respect criticism, free thought, or democracy. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. I beg you, let that sink in. I beg you. Let it sink in that the President of the United States does not trust anyone who's working for him. He trusts a murderer, an oppressor, a totalitarian dictator is who he trusts. Why not trust Kim Jong-un too? Right? Like, Jesus Christ. Wow. Wow. What else do we have on the news? I was going to look at it from my desktop, but every time I move one tab to another, it kind of messes with the video feed, I think. So what do we have on this article? What do we have? So here's another headline. This is what I was reading before I left work. I had some quiet time. The Washington Post says this: Trump says Russia is no longer targeting the U.S., contradicting statement from U.S. intelligence chief. That's what we were talking about. The other article was just another perspective of the same thing. But let's think about this headline, right? Trump says Russia is no longer targeting the U.S., contradicting statement from U.S. intelligence chief. So again, therefore, Trump does not trust the intelligence chief. Okay, again, who does Trump trust? Who does Trump trust? Vladimir Putin, a murderer, a totalitarian dictator, a man who invades other countries. And not, people argue, oh, well, doesn't America invade countries? Let's be clear. Even if Iraq was Tara, hey, my God, it's so generous of you to take a second to listen to what I have to say. I appreciate it. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So look, I'm talking about the news. I'm talking about the president, and I'm just reading this headline from the Washington Post, and can't believe it. It's kind of freaking me out, but this is what it is. Trump says Russia is no longer targeting the U.S., contradicting statement from U.S. intelligence chief, right? So we're saying Trump doesn't trust our intelligence chief or Congress, so who does he trust? Vladimir Putin, the guy who kills his critics and invades other countries. And I was saying, maybe people who are criticizing my analysis will say, well, didn't America invade Iraq? Yes, but let's be clear. And though that was ultimately a bad policy, it's why I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, because she was for the war in Iraq. Let's face it, Iraq was run by a ruthless dictator who did chemical attacks on his own people. He gassed them too. I forget the exact history of all the details of the massacres committed by Saddam Hussein, but we did liberate Iraq from that situation. It's not like Russia liberated Ukraine. Ukraine was relatively free compared to Russia, actually. So anyone who equates US invasion of Iraq with Russian invasion of Ukraine and Crimea, sorry, wrong. Fact. So this is who Donald Trump trusts. Treason, traitor, unconstitutional, a threat to our national security. Thus, I hope you will all be moved, as I said, to call Congress and say this is very dangerous. The president really is one of two things, maybe three, but I'm going to doubt the third. But number one, Trump is actually just that stupid. And, you know, while I want to think that, and I do think he's pretty stupid, I don't think it's pure stupidity. The other thing is that Vladimir Putin has blackmail against Donald Trump and says, you're going to do exactly what I say, or else I'm going to reveal this before the world, and you will go to jail when they find out what you've done. He may be using that. The third, this would be the scariest. If he's not an idiot, well, I mean, if he's not so stupid that he just happens to believe Putin, pretty unbelievable that would be the case. And if he's not doing whatever Vladimir Putin tells him because Vladimir Putin has blackmail on him, it would seem the only other logical explanation is that Trump is just in love with Vladimir Putin and thinks Vladimir Putin is like the greatest thing, better than us. Which all of these theories, which I think are the most reasonable theories, all of them still amount to treason. It's just the cause of that treason would be different. But he's still a treasonist. He's still a traitor. He's still putting Russia's interests and their safety before ours, which is treason, which is illegal and, you know, bad, awful, scary, those things. So here's a little bit more context in case you want a little bit of the some of the details. Trump was asked by a reporter. He was asked, my cell phone is getting weird here. He was asked if he believes Russia is no longer, if Russia is a threat. He's asked if Russia is a threat, if they're targeting the US. And here's what Mr. Trump said in response. Thank you very much, no. Right, this is as reported by the Washington Post. Thank you very much, no, Trump said in response to a question from a reporter about whether Trump is still targeting the United States. He also asserted no president has been tougher on Russia than him. Lie. Major lie. So, and the irony of that contradiction. Think about it. So Trump is saying, no, Putin is not targeting us, even though the head of intelligence says, yes, he is. And then he's saying, no one's been tougher on Russia than me. Quite the opposite, Mr. President. Quite the opposite. No president has ever been weaker than you in our history. You want irony? So there've only been 2 presidents, right, who've been impeached. Nixon was almost impeached, but was not. Clinton, over oral sex and lying about that, kind of a silly reason to impeach him compared to other impeachable offenses, but alas. And yet Trump can be a treasonist and yet not be impeached while Clinton is impeached because he lied about cheating on his wife. Even though Trump lies about cheating on his wife, and not just once, and not just twice, and in fact is paying a plethora of women to shut up about. Whoa, where are we? Who have we become? But Andrew Johnson, President Andrew Johnson, who was the president after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, he was a troubling president because he was actually a Southerner, but he was a Southerner who, when the states succeeded, he remained loyal-ish to the Union and was Abraham Lincoln's vice president. He, who was a Southerner, was not quite so treasonous as Donald Trump. And is thus the weakest president in foreign policy, the weakest president ever. Trump is, I think, relative to the time he lives in, the worst president of all time. I think that's an easy one. So what other headlines, important headlines, do we have here? Let's refresh this here. Okay, so did you hear about the Russian spy who was arrested? Who is connected to this whole Trump-Russia thing? Maria Butina. Washington Post has an article about her. She was arrested this week on charges of being a foreign agent. She has ties to Russian intelligence operatives and was in contact with them while in the United States, federal prosecutors said Wednesday. By the way, Mr. John Laverty, hello. I do want to say, I thank you so much for your service, sir. And times like this must be especially troubling for someone so courageous as you. So I'm sorry for whatever pain you might be experiencing with all that's going on. So prosecutors arrested this Russian spy who was working with the Russian intelligence. Keep that in mind too, while President Trump is saying that Russia's not targeting us. When we've arrested a spy targeting us. What the hell? The president is blatantly lying about matters regarding our national security. Unacceptable. Must be removed. Is not fit to be president. Not allowed. Not allowed. Not supposed to be allowed. Congress must act on this fact. We must demand that Congress do this. And I'm sorry to project so loudly here, but think about this from a national security perspective. The president is breaking the law, threatening our national security, and the Republicans in Congress are letting him get away with it. Whoa, not supposed to happen, must not happen. So I would urge all of you to please call our members of Congress and say, look at what is happening before your very eyes. How many lines of morality and law and violence to our national security must the president cross before you will get over your pathetic self and actually do something and protect this damn country. I can't think of a more clear and exact way to put it. And I hate that I had to put so much emotion into that, but God, if you love your country, it's kind of an emotional thing. I would imagine, John, that you might have a thought on that, a comment on that. Surely if you do, I'd love to hear it. Not that I'm saying you have to, but I'm just trying to get a conversation going here, really, about the need to impeach the president. That's why I'm doing this. It's the only reason why I'm doing this. It's my version of a activism, social media filibuster thing. I know it's probably not working, but at least I could say I tried. And I think that's the point. Maybe Trump will get away with it. It makes me nauseous and sick and infuriated that he might, but he might get away with this. As of now, to the best of my knowledge, he will continue to get away with this. But when a person sees that a wrong is being done, a person must correct it. It's called integrity. It's called having a conscience. So, yeah, whatever, I'm selfish. I'm doing this to satisfy the aches in my conscience as I watch what is happening in our country. And I hope it is possible that you share similar sentiments. It's my prayer, in fact, my great hope that you do share my sentiments, or that it's possible that I might convince you that this is important. And this is like unprecedented. That's what I think. That's the craziness of all of this. Like, never in my life have I thought, I'm just going to go on a live camera and focus on one thing, one particular thing, and go on about it for as long as I can and try to reach a lot of people. Yeah, when I was younger and immature, I experimented with live streaming and putting amateur shows on, but there was no soul in it. I wasn't moved by convictions about anything in those days, to tell you the truth. But God, I'm scared. As I told you, I'm scared, and I don't know what else to do. If I believed there was something else I could do right now that I thought would convince a large number of people to call Congress and demand impeachment and spread that message, I would be doing it right now. And I remind you, there are things I wish I could be doing instead. I wish I could be reading. I wish I could be writing. I wish I could be at the beach, to be honest. I wish my wife didn't have to work. She's working like a 16-hour shift. She's a nurse. Again, I say, God bless people who do really hard jobs. And speaking of hard jobs, if you work in the government right now and you have a conscience, you have a hard job. We all have a hard job right now, to be honest with you. We all have a really hard job because we have to impeach the president. We have to make that policy action happen. We must. We have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to ourselves, right? If we care about ourselves, if we have self-esteem, and we think we deserve to live in a country where the laws are followed and enforced properly, if we believe we deserve a president who loves us and cares about us and wants our protection, if we believe that, then we must demand that Congress impeach the president now. And yes, I care enough about my self-preservation and my conscience and my life that yes, I'm calling Congress every day. I'm not only calling Congress every day, I'm calling my state legislature, my assemblymen, and my state senator, and saying, if our House of Representatives won't act, you have a moral responsibility to demand that they act. And God, do you want to know how cowardly and pathetic our lawmakers are? They're doing nothing. Talking. Yap, 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 yap. Instead of passing a damn law. Instead of holding the president accountable. Whoa, audacious, unacceptable, bad, wrong, unethical. They're sitting on their damn asses worried about re-election instead of taking care of the American people who they ran for office to take care of, to look out for and represent. They are not doing their jobs. Almost none of them are doing their jobs. And you know why that pisses me off? Because if I don't do my job where I work, I get in trouble. They don't get in trouble when they don't do their job. Unacceptable. If we want to live in a better world, we really need to start demanding it in a more intense way. The world needs to change. Cut and simple. The world needs to change. We have become, what's the word? Apathetic, cynical, jaded, inactive, complacent. We sit and we bitch and moan, but we don't do anything about what bothers us. I'm not saying you guys in particular, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying too many of our fellow Americans are behaving this way. And I don't accept it. I don't know about you, but I just don't accept it. I think it's wrong. And I'm demanding that we do something. I demand it. I urge you to consider this perspective. I urge you to consider this perspective because I believe we deserve better. And if you don't do it for yourself, do it for the people that you love. Your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friends, your family members. Do you want them to live in a country that could face an attack and their lives could get worse very soon because, I don't know, Putin fucks with our power grids? He has been attacking our infrastructure, our technological infrastructure. That's a fact. The national security chief has said that. And we do nothing about it. When Trump aids and abets that attack. And Congress does nothing about it. I'll grant you this. We shouldn't have to, right? Congress, there's division of labor, right? Each of us has a different job. We concentrate on different things. I talked about this with one of my coworkers because he says he doesn't tend to really care about politics that much. And I say, I get it. You can't care about everything in the world all the time. That's why people are specialists in something, right? So I get it that in a healthy country and in a good country, while it's good to be a good citizen and be basically aware, and it's good to call Congress when you think they must act, it shouldn't depend so much on us. It should depend on Congress. Congress should be acting. Congress should have the common decency to say that the President of the United States has committed treason and is persisting in his treasonous behavior as we speak. That's what they should be saying and thinking, and they should stop him from doing it because it's unethical and illegal and a threat to our lives. Yeah, a threat to our actual lives, and Congress does nothing. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Daniel, and it is so nice to see you. And I appreciate you taking time from your day to listen to me rant about my serious concern about this dangerous, unprecedented, horrifying, and frightening situation we're in. But I know of nothing else to do but speak as much as I can to as many people as possible. And my theory is that this is the only way to do it, or the best way to do it as of now. So, right, if we had decent congressmen and decent congresswomen, they would have impeached Trump probably like when he was elected. And in fact, if we had decent politicians to begin with, Trump never would have been president. There would have been a better group of people we would had to choose from, right? The Republican primary was like one of the biggest jokes in American history. They call it a circus. It really was, figuratively speaking, that is. So unfortunately, I say this is a great misfortune. Daniel, no, I honor yours. You have put so much energy into filling Facebook news feeds with the message of Trump's treason and his misbehavior and the danger that he puts to this country, that I honor your spirit. But I am so grateful for people like you who are doing everything they can to keep this country safe, purge it of treason and evil. But I mean that. I hope there are more people like you. I really do. So my point is, ladies and gentlemen, if we had decent lawmakers, first of all, we probably never would have gotten in this mess. But if we did, decent lawmakers would say, the president is committing treason, the president is out, and begin impeachment proceedings immediately, very quickly, and then the Senate would very quickly have a trial and say, out, Mr. President, and then he could be tried in a court of law and thrown into jail for the rest of his life for his behavior. God, you want to know something about me? Some of you don't know this. When I was in my 20s, early 20s, I felt the need for speed, as they say. I drove really fast a lot, and I got a lot of speeding tickets. And I lost my license because of that for a long time. And I went through over half a decade, I think, of feeling the humiliation of not being able to drive myself places, depending on my wife, then girlfriend. My point is, I broke the law and I suffered the consequences. Why is it that, yeah, I sped a little bit. Not a good thing to do, but not the worst thing on earth to do, right? I got penalized pretty punitively for that. Meanwhile, the President of the United States commits treason, ignores his intelligence officers, and he gets away with it. Unacceptable. Dimitri, it is so nice to see you, to know that you're here. I really appreciate it, and I'm so thankful that you would take a moment to care what I have to say about all this. Dawn Alexander was here watching too, so it's nice, Mrs. Green's reunion here. God, how things were different in those days. There was still a chance Hillary might be president. I wish she was. I did not vote for Hillary Clinton at the time, but I wish she was president because it's better than what we have now. Now we have a criminal, a treasonist, who needs to be impeached, tried, and thrown in jail for the rest of his life. And unfortunately, this was the point I was getting at. See, if we had good congressmen and congresswomen, this would have happened already. That hurts. Like, that genuinely hurts and makes me feel sad and bad. I feel bad about my country. I don't live in a country that is as good as I thought. We lack, overall, I'm not saying you guys, and I'm not saying everybody, but as a country, we lack conscience. We lack ethical clarity. We lack a sense of right and wrong. We lack a sense of justice. There is so much injustice in this country, and we do nothing overall. Our Congress is so pathetic that treason is not enough to move them to do anything. God, I think that's so awful that I feel like I need to say it again, even though it pains me deeply to say this. Our members of Congress, whose job it is to, among all things, protect our national security, they don't care that our national security is at risk. They don't care that the president is not listening to his intelligence chief. They don't care. That's how sociopathic and sadistic they are. We must let that sink in, and we must reject it. We must reject it. We have an ethical obligation to reject and correct the aberrant behavior of our politicians. And frankly, even some of the Democrats, I get it. They think they were going to win the midterms if they don't impeach the president. Dudes, girls, ladies in Congress, Democrats, I get it. But what is more important right now is that aberrant behavior is punished. And you must hold the president accountable and impeach him now. You must, because when you don't, as you stand, more and more bad, aberrant, treasonous behavior is permitted to exist and occur. How dare you? How dare you sit and do nothing, twiddle your thumbs and say, I want to be reelected. I want to be reelected. I want to be reelected. You know, shut the hell up and act and impeach this president now for the sake of our national security. Hi, Chrissy. I'm sorry about that. I'm a little heated, but it's really nice that you're so kind to take a second to listen to my 2 cents on this issue. So I thank you, and I hope you're doing very well. And I hope that you'll say hi to everybody at McCaffrey's for me. I don't shop there because Whole Foods has healthier food. More organic. So I'm just, thinking, guys. You could say, I just need someone to talk to. I need to vent to you about my political feelings, but it's actually much more severe than that. I'm scared of our president. I'm scared of our utterly immoral Congress, on the left and the right. Granted, there are more people on the left with the spine to call for the president to be impeached and to blatantly and explicitly condemn him, but there aren't enough of them yet demanding impeachment. There are not enough of them yet. So, as I was saying, when congressmen and congresswomen are good and decent, they identify bad behavior in our government and they get rid of it. But our Congress isn't that good. Isn't it disturbing and sick to actually even have to acknowledge how bad they are? Like, whoa, they're bad people. Like, they're genuinely kind of bad. And I hate to have to say that, but it's true. If you call a spade and you're going to be objective about it, right? So I'm saying this because in theory, they would be doing what needs to be done, but they're not doing what needs to be done. So you and I need to do what needs to be done. And that is put as much pressure on Congress as possible with as many demands for Trump's impeachment as we can. That's what we must do. And that is what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm going to keep on talking about it either until it happens or I'll just keep on going about it. I'll keep going on and on. I don't care. People ask me, why do you bother? People ask me, oh, he's not going to be impeached. How the hell do you know? You're God? You're a prophet? You can only predict the future to a certain extent. Certainly, you cannot predict, in my opinion, you cannot predict like the behavior of an entire country. No, you can't. It's impossible because you'd have to know more than the human mind could possibly grasp at once. So anyone who says that it's impossible to impeach the president, forgive me for using, I don't want to swear. I don't want people to misconstrue my language, so I won't, but I do have the desire to. I have that much anger right now. I desire to curse. I do, and I will curse when I turn the camera off. It's on us, guys. And yeah, they can say that Trump's never going to be impeached. It's not going to happen. But they can't prove it. And they can't stop us from trying. And so 2 things. Either we succeed, totally possible, or we don't. But let me ask you this, and I ask you this very seriously. If Trump remains president, and Trump does more and more what Vladimir Putin wants, and Vladimir Putin starts attacking our country, its cyber infrastructure, disinformation campaigns, God forbid a bomb or a military, violent military conflict, and you said nothing and did nothing to try to stop it, I don't know, how would you feel about yourself? That's what I ask myself. When it comes to moral issues, that's what I ask myself. How would I feel if the bad thing continued and I allowed it to, and I said it was okay, or I didn't do enough to show how very unokay it was to me? I can't live with that. I want to live in a world. Now look, I'm not an idealist. I used to be. I'm not an idealist anymore. I don't imagine that we can live in a utopia. I'm not that delusional. I do believe that we can constantly make things better and better. I also believe that justice is a good thing. Yeah, justice. That is a word we do not hear enough, isn't it? Justice. I've got something by Martin Luther King on justice. Someone once asked me if I was obsessed with getting Trump impeached. No, they said I am obsessed, and they spun it like it was a negative thing. And I said, yeah, I am obsessed with getting President Trump impeached, and I'm obsessed with justice, and I kind of take pride in it. So, not really offended, actually flattered. Listen to this, right? From Martin Luther King. You've probably heard this before. It's from his famous open letter, Letter from a Birmingham Jail. He wrote it in 1963 when he was in jail. Again, because he was a victim of injustice. This was a time, when segregation still existed, and Black people were just treated so very terribly by white supremacists, of which there was more than there is now, though we're seeing a disturbing reemergence of that bigoted thinking. Martin Luther King says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I'll say that again. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I like that so much, I'm even going to type it here. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Everywhere. MLK. So let's think about that for a second, right? The president is behaving in an unjust way. Remember when America used to be this country that people were enamored by? America used to be the country where everybody wants to move to, immigrate to, because they thought it was a country where there was a constant need for more justice and improved policy, more freedom, more equality under the law. More goodness in America. People came to America because it was a better country. I'm not gonna lie, I have been thinking about leaving this country. It would be complicated and not fun, finding work, etc. But Ireland's looking pretty good to me right now. The UK is looking pretty good to me right now, Canada. Because they understand. It's ironic. America used to be one of the greatest countries in the world. And it's turning into one of the worst because of who our president is and because of what our Congress is. And even now, what our Supreme Court is turning into. Used to be that America was that great place. So if injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, by accepting Trump's treasonous behavior, what are we saying to other countries? Right? If you teach by example, we're saying to them, treason is okay. We're saying to them that a government that doesn't function is okay. We're saying it's okay when the president doesn't listen to his chief of intelligence. We're saying that it's okay to take the word of a murderous totalitarian dictator over an intelligence community of a free country, a country that's becoming less free, sadly. So we send a signal to the darkest, most thuggish, evil people on earth to go ahead. It's happening in America now. It's going to be easier now. So this is not just a threat to our country. This is a threat to international peace, to international decency. This is a global threat. And we need to impeach the president. And everybody needs to call Congress and demand that the president be impeached. This is a really good, if you've never read Letter from a Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King. It really is really a great thing. Here's something else that he says that I like too. Somewhat inspired me. So we must see the need for nonviolent gadflies to create a kind of tension in society that will help men rise from the dark depths of prejudice and racism to the majestic heights of understanding and brotherhood. What is a gadfly? I didn't know when I first read this, so I circled it in green and wrote down the definition. A persistently annoying person. So Martin Luther King says, we see the need for nonviolent and persistently annoying people to create a kind of tension in society that will induce people to listen. So, hi, my name is Sean O'Connor and I'm a gadfly, hoping to stir something and induce enough people to call Congress and demand that the president be impeached. And certainly the cause could use your help. I talked earlier about efforts that can be made. There's a number of new people here since I last mentioned it, but we each have members in the House of Representatives representing us, and we each have 2 senators. So we need to be calling them. I have it listed on the scroll of comments, the phone number of, if you live in New Jersey, Senators Cory Booker and Senator Robert Menendez. Look, they've been great with their mouths, but they haven't taken substantive actions. I've been on the phone with their staffers every day, demanding more. And they keep saying, oh, well, you know, they're condemning Trump. They're condemning him. It's easy to condemn. Well, not for the Republicans, but it's easy for the Democrats. Excuse me, stiff neck. It's easy for them to condemn the president, but for some reason they won't impeach him. And they won't impeach him because they're afraid of losing elections. And that's sad that they think re-election matters more than actively stopping a treasonist from undermining our national security. Even from the most cynical interpretation of everything that's going on, you could say Trump should have been impeached on Monday when he openly and blatantly took the word of a thuggish, murderous, totalitarian dictator over the intelligence community of a free country. This is sad stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is the saddest political thing I have ever seen in my life, with the exception of 9/11. The saddest. I almost cried at work today when I read Trump had reiterated the fact that he takes Putin's word over our national intelligence community. I thought, my God. Someone had said to me, I was talking about this, and he said that, so this is what it feels like. He said, this is what it feels like what it would have felt like to be in Nazi Germany in 1933. And people get really angry when you compare Trump to Hitler, but actually there are a lot of deeply disturbing similarities. And yeah, I wish that it was true that you could just dismiss me as a anti-Trump lunatic, but look at the similarities. I'll list them. How did Hitler rise to power? Through democratic process, right? Germany was a democracy, and Hitler was part of the Nazi party, and they ran elections. Interesting thing about when the Nazis were getting closer to their eradication of the democracy, when Hitler and his Nazi party were rising, they were competing against a lot of other political parties. So do you remember the GOP primary in 2016? It was weird. There were like 1,000 different Republicans running. Think about this. The majority of Republicans, over 51% of Republicans during the primary utterly rejected Trump, right? Even Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, who are now seemingly giving him figurative oral sex. It's very disturbing and gross. So the point is that because there were a lot of people running for political power, even though the majority rejected Trump, the majority couldn't get behind one person, right? Now, that's what happened in Hitler's situation. There were so many political parties that he didn't have the majority of Germany backing him. That's not true. But the majority of Germans could not get behind one person. So when it's not a competition for the majority, it's a competition for the plurality, especially as people start to drop out. So Trump's rise to power is like very similar, disturbingly similar to Hitler's rise to power. Other things too, though. Hitler was a strange fellow. Hitler paid a lot of attention to politics. Hitler paid very close attention to how people reacted to the things that he did. So, for example, have you heard of Kristallnacht, perhaps, in your studies of the Holocaust in elementary school, high school, college, and the movies? The Night of Broken Glass. This was, the date escapes me. I'm not that great a historian. Mid to late 1930s. I want to say 1938, actually. And Hitler decrees a massacre on Jewish property, Jewish synagogues and businesses. So a mass of people rioted and broke the windows of businesses and wrote "Dirty Jew" and graffiti, essentially. And Hitler saw that the German people actually did not, by and large, like it. So Hitler said, okay, I shouldn't be so open about my violence. I have to make it more secretive. Similar situation. Also, Adolf Hitler, and keep this in mind because of what Trump has done with the children at the borders. Keep this in mind, please. Hitler had a policy whereby if you were considered mentally retarded or physically disabled, that he would have you gassed. He did this before he gassed the Jews. And the German people wouldn't have it. The church got involved, and said this is unacceptable, and Hitler backed off. But Hitler also said, I'm going to have to do these kind of things in even greater secrecy. Right? So now let's look at Donald Trump and his treatment of children on the border. He is tearing them, even babies, tearing them from their parents and locking them in cages. Americans were outraged, and in theory, the government is acting on this, but it poses a certain question that is, what are we willing to tolerate in terms of evil? And not only that, don't underestimate Donald Trump and his callousness. Don't underestimate him. That's what they did during World War II. Once they got Hitler to stop doing the things they didn't like, they just looked the other way when rumors came that he was doing other very, very bad things, committing genocide, concentration camps, etc. We don't know how bad Trump is. We just know he's very bad. And we can't experiment and ask, we can't sit and wait and see how far will Trump go. Lesson of the Holocaust. There were people in, for example, the Jewish community very early on who said, Hitler is going to do major harm to us, we need to leave. And no one listened to them. It was the minority of Jews who paid attention, understood what was going on, and got the hell out of Germany. But most people said, no, he would never go that far. So as you're processing Trump's behavior, ripping babies from their parents, colluding with the Russian government, and if you're wondering, is this it? This is the end? This is as bad as he gets? Whatevs? Don't be that naive, please. Please don't be that naive. He will get worse. We have reason to believe it, considering the fact that he's been getting worse. See, evil, there's a great article in the Irish Times that someone sent me when my wife texted me. I have to just respond to her really quick. Sorry to keep you. Really sorry, almost done. Whoa, Bob Venanzi. I am so flattered that you would take a second to listen to my 2 cents. I hope you're doing really well. And in truth, if you have anything funny to say, because I always think you are a brilliant comedian in these awful times, feel free, because you have always been able to cheer me up. I tell you, I used to cashier with Bob at Bottle King, and it was very tedious, boring, unfun job, and he would just constantly come up with fresh comedic material and make me laugh. And I've never forgotten or failed to appreciate that, Bob. Sorry, the wife texted me again. Don't want to get in trouble. Got to pay attention to those we love. Sorry again, but the point I'm trying to make is that we need to impeach the president. We need to demand that Congress impeach him. So sorry about this. Almost done. Yeah, Goodness, I lost my train of thought. But I was talking about, how we shouldn't underestimate what Trump is capable of. We would be naive to think that we would be naive to think that this is it. And so, especially in light of the fact that he's perfectly willing to commit treason openly. Yes, Bob, there was an article in the Irish Times, and it talks about how fascism works, and talks about how this guy in Ireland sees it happening, not just in the United States, but like across the world, and that their approach, that the approach that fascists are taking, people of a fascist kind of mentality, they're experimenting with like a gradualist approach to their anti-democratic policies. So so they do something and they see, will the people put up with it? And if they do, then they persist. If they don't, they hold back, they wait, and they try again later. And look, that's what's happening. Where do you want to start, right? Politics aside and law aside, we had, when Donald Trump was still running for president, he was already spouting rhetoric that, if enacted on, would have been impeachable, right? For example, the Muslim ban. I mean, he first of all, he blatantly said that all Muslims should be prohibited from entering the United States, and he would take care of that. But that's unconstitutional, because the government is not allowed to discriminate against you by considering your religion, as you all know. So right away, Trump was spouting things that, under in different conditions in this country, people would have said, don't vote for this guy. This nonsense he's saying is, it's impeachable, what he's saying. So Trump is seeing how far he can strip man of his integrity, men and women of their integrity. He's seeing how much can he corrode conscience in the United States. And that's a scary, depressing thing. And again, I think the most blatant example is he's committing treason, and even the Democrats in Congress are like, wait till the midterms, guys. God, you don't know what might happen between now and the midterms. So Congress is sitting back while aberrant behavior persists. And that's what's happened to conscience in the United States. The people in power, they've lost their consciences. And so I'm saying that we need to demand that spark that almost everybody, I think, has, that is connected to conscience, be activated. We must demand that our members of Congress impeach the President of the United States, that they do it now, and that they try him in the Senate, and that they remove him from office. And then he needs to be prosecuted in the court of law and thrown into jail for the rest of his life for treason, for obstruction of justice, for violating the First Amendment, for violating the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution, for abuse of power, for a lack of any sense of ethics whatsoever. I mean, I know people who are, very liberal, and who say they miss George W. Bush. So think about the huge contrast between George W. Bush and Donald Trump. Bush didn't even vote for him. Romney didn't vote for him. John McCain didn't vote for him. Good people did not even bother voting for Donald Trump. The best of us rejected him immediately. If those of you watching happen to be a Trump supporter, I don't mean to say that I don't know you. I don't know your soul. I don't know what made you want to vote for him. And I can't prove that you're an inherently bad person. I'm not saying you are. But the point I'm trying to make is that Trump's behavior from the get-go was blatantly immoral. And he kept doing it. And yet, in particular, those in his party, a large swath of them were willing to go along with it if it meant more power and their policy agenda, even if his behavior was aberrant. And even now, I don't know if anyone has breaking news or anything. I haven't even been looking at the paper. I don't know if there's been something, if we have any news on impeachment, if anybody has commented. Check my Huffington Post. Bob, you probably can't believe your ears. I was so deeply libertarian. Yes, I'm a convert, so I'm a registered Democrat now. No, just confirmations on judges. Nothing about Congress acting and removing the president, a treasonist, from office. See if anybody else is reporting any updates on what's going on. Because I know, well, thank you, Bob. You're a very generous soul. This is kind of weird. Bob Venanzi says, Trump exploits the political divide in this country and America's become very tribal. It's not news, just facts. Amen. And it's exactly what you're saying is true. And what's so bizarre about it is that people are in utter denial of it. Utter denial. And yes, tribal is like a very good word. You have to belong to your little group. And Trump supporters have become, not all of them, but a large swath of them have become like a cult. And Trump is their great leader. So, Bob, I agree with you, and I'm very glad that you spoke out. And feel free to continue speaking out, whatever you want to say here. Obviously, whatever you want to say anywhere, but I love to know what you think. Always have. You're a very smart guy who's always had very thoughtful analysis of things going on around us. You understood it surely better than I did a few years ago. You definitely schooled me. The New York Times is reporting this. Wild. Just this headline, okay? Just think about this headline and what how trippy it is, how Orwellian it is. Trump appears to say Russia is no longer targeting U.S. White House says he was answering a different question. Oh, here. Can you see? Oh, I lost it. They changed the headline when you click on it. Yeah. Trump appears to say Russia is no longer targeting U.S. White House says he was answering a different question. 2 + 2 = 5 much? Whoa. I mean, yeah, we've had that's one of those alternate facts, right? Fake. That's fake news if there ever was. Not what the New York Times is reporting, but what they're reporting is a fake, fabricated blurring of reality. And the fact that these people persist in doing this, being complicit in treason, whoa. Like, these are bad people. In a way, it's like there's been a coup without there being a coup. That is to say, it's like a very evil segment of the American population hijacked the Republican Party and hijacked the White House with Putin as the leader, and Trump essentially as the governor presiding over one of Putin's little puppet states. Ooh, we've become a puppet state of Putin, and everybody knows it, and it's right before our eyes. By God. We are actually being controlled by another government. Bob Venanzi says, Trump's most recent act of treason was believing Putin over American intelligence agencies. Amen to that. I need to, I want to put heart, but I feel like it's too sad to. I want to put sad, but I don't want it to sound like I'm thinking I disagree with what you say. But it is sad, so I'm putting the sad face, because it's very sad, because what you're saying is true. What you're saying is true. Trump's most recent act of treason was believing Putin over American intelligence agencies. Amen. That, in fact, you couldn't put it better. You couldn't put it more succinct. You couldn't put it more exactly. And it's a little bit scary for me. I think it's utterly terrifying, because what else could Putin want Trump to do, policy-wise, now that he has his way with him and Congress is more or less complying? What else does Putin want Trump to do? How long will we continue to allow Putin to control our government? Right? Let's be clear. Putin is actually controlling the executive branch of the United States of America. He is the president. President Vladimir Putin is president of Russia and is president of the United States, and Donald Trump is enabling it. And as Bob Venanzi points out, that is an act of treason. And our Congress is watching before their very eyes, watching the president act and persist in treasonous behavior, and does nothing. When I actually say that out loud, I don't believe it. I don't know about you guys. I mean, yeah, I've felt cynical about the state of American politics for a long time, but that depth of immorality, that depth of absence of conscience, that depth of that depth of absence of law enforcement is genuinely mind-boggling. We've actually been, it is an attack, and it's a unique attack, right? It's not like an attack like 9/11, where someone takes airplanes and, it's not that kind of attack. It's an attack where someone else is controlling our government. It's we've had our sovereignty taken from us, basically. We've had our foreign policy actions, control over our foreign policy actions taken from us. So we've been attacked in a way that is unique, that is kind of mind-blowing on Putin's part. Look, the guy's evil, but he's a genius. He's an evil genius. If you don't want to cause conventional war, because you don't want so many lives to be lost, though ironic, because Putin kills people callously and easily, those who criticize him. Yeah, and so what about the criticism thing? And Putin and Trump doing whatever Putin says? What happens when Trump starts to attack his critics? And what happens when it starts to get violent and people find themselves killed? I want to say we should never say that could happen here, but one should never say that. I think humanity's downfall is utter cockiness. I think the downfall of any individual is cockiness. My greatest fear, the only thing that scares me more than death is becoming cocky, to be honest with you. I cannot stand getting into an argument with somebody and they think they know everything and they're so sure something's going to happen that they never leave room to at least play the devil's advocate. Right, so let's play the devil's advocate here. The Trump supporters are saying, here's the irony of the devil's advocate. To play the devil's advocate with Trump's most ardent supporters is to say, suppose Trump is God and can create a different reality and make our wishes conform to what we want. As in, like, create a new dimension, a new reality. Because when critics of Trump present facts to them, they say, no, that's not true, right? Look at that headline from the New York Times that we were talking about. Trump appears to say Russia is no longer targeting US White House, which he said, and White House thinks that they can somehow make him not say it, change time. And no, he didn't really say it. They say, well, he was answering a different question. As in there had to be some kind of different context than what everybody is interpreting this to be. No. Lies. Lies. You can't play the devil's advocate with lies. You can play the devil's advocate with, would be the right way to put it. You can play the devil's advocate with things that are more complex, I think. But, well, I'll take it back in one sense. I'll grant this. You need to understand the ideology you wish to refute. So you need to play the devil's advocate in the context of examining. You have to hear the nonsense that's being spouted and watch it and find the contradiction. I don't want to get too abstract, but that's another thing, right? Because Trump's lying depends on abstract ideas, crazy abstract ideas, but abstract ideas about metaphysics and the nature of reality. Only implicitly, because Trump's not that smart, but it's, it's subconscious, implicit, de facto, what have you. But right, the average person perhaps doesn't delve so thoroughly into kind of questions like, can't there be another reality? Trump supporters, a lot of them are just taking that theory that there can be the reality that they want and that they can just reject the reality that is actual reality. And, they don't have the competence to reason through all of that. They just cling to it fast and don't look back. So with all this dishonesty, all this lying, all this fabrication of facts, I don't know. It's possible that you can become so embedded in an ideology that you don't actually anymore, maybe you lose the mental capacity to look outside of it. Maybe that's what's going on. Right? Like we talk about religious extremism, the Christian, what do you call them? The, back in the day, the Spanish Inquisition, for example, right? When people had this crazy ideology, you've got to kill the non-Catholics in Spain, right? Nazi ideology. People get bizarrely sucked into ideology. They just get they get stuck to it and cannot. They somehow, it's like there's a point of no return once you get into a depth of an ideology. I don't know what you guys think, but one of my concerns is that Congress, or a large number of the population in Congress has crossed the threshold, that they are at the point of no return, that they have sunk into the depths of a vicious, crazy, pro-Putin, pro-treason ideology. I don't know. If that's the case, then nothing I'm saying matters. But even if that were true, that it doesn't matter, I would feel better, like I have more of a conscience, if I did what I could to speak out about it and at least have my 2 cents available for people to ponder. So I renew my call on everybody to please call your members of Congress. Please call your representative, the one who represents you in the House of Representatives, that House of the Legislature, and to call your senators. And I understand that senators don't have the power to impeach, but the senators do have the voice. They have a capacity to utter sound from their mouths and form words directed at their colleagues in the House of Representatives and say something like, we call on you and demand you to impeach the president now for committing treason, among other violations of US law and ethical standards. There are other things you can do also. It's not just about calling the members of Congress, and I put the numbers in the comments, though there are a number of comments, so maybe they're lost. But if you live in New Jersey and you're wondering how to get in touch with our representatives and you don't know who they are, our senators are Robert Menendez and Cory Booker, and you can reach Robert Menendez at 202-224-4744, and you can reach Cory Booker at, I don't even remember, did I tell you Cory Booker or Menendez? Sorry. I might be getting a little bit tired here. So I'll just start over. Menendez, 202-224-4744. Cory Booker, 202-224-3224. Those are our senators who should be demanding the House of Representatives to impeach the president. I don't know who your representative is. Mine is Bonnie Watson Coleman. I live in East Windsor. Bonnie Watson Coleman would also represent you if you live in, I think, West Windsor, Princeton, Hamilton, Ewing, Trenton, those places. And she could be reached at 202-225-5800. Another very important number, definitely urge you to call this number, regardless of where you live, is the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee. The Judiciary Committee is where the impeachment process begins. The members on that committee need to hear from us that we demand impeachment now. 202-225-3951. That's 202-225-3951. So I think the case has been made here. I think I've said what I could say. I'm trying to keep the conversation going for as long as possible. This is my version of a Facebook filibuster. I will just try to keep talking for as long as I can. 2 hours and 19 minutes. Yes, I've actually been talking nonstop for almost 2.5 hours. I don't know. Maybe my theory is wrong. I don't know how many views I got. I do know 23 comments, 5 likes. It's a good thing. So, right, the question is, what is the greatest way to reach the largest number of people in the quickest amount of time through social media, especially if you're not good at Twitter, which I'm not. In fact, I'll post that question so I have it out there. If you know of a more effective, you believe there's something more effective than doing a Facebook live stream, please let me know. I'll tell you why I'm doing this in terms of logistics. When I researched Facebook's algorithm and looked up how do you, what makes something appear on someone's newsfeed versus not appear on someone's newsfeed. And one of the things they said is that live stream videos will have greater odds at surfacing on people's newsfeed because it's viewed as more meaningful. It's a deeper, richer form of communication. And they think more people will watch a live stream video than click something else that isn't so personal. So based on that evidence, I said, okay, if I want to get Trump impeached, if I want to convince as many people as possible, then what I need to do is do this Facebook live stream thing. And I thought the longer I do it, I increase the odds of more people watching. Not the whole thing, I don't think. I wouldn't listen to myself talk for 2.5 hours. But at different points, different people would hear what I'm saying and might get a snippet of information about why it's crucial that we impeach the president and steps we can take to strongly pressure Congress to impeach the president. So this is my Facebook filibuster on that. Let's see what else is the news reporting. I am curious. I was looking at Huffington Post, looking at the New York Times. What else is Times reporting with respect to this? Huh. This is interesting. Didn't expect this. Russian suspect offered sex for access, officials say. Yeah, so you see a young Russian girl who is hitting on you very blatantly. Here. Maria Butina, suspected secret agent, used sex in covert plan, prosecutors say. A Russian woman charged with secretly acting on Moscow's behalf was working as a covert agent in the United States and was recently in contact with a suspected Russian intelligence official as part of a years-long conspiracy. Prosecutors said on Wednesday. Very interesting. She stayed in contact with a high-ranking official in Moscow while she was spying here. And she took part in romance simply as part of the job. She offered sex to another American in exchange for a position within a special interest organization. Okay, she offered sex to another American in exchange for a position within a special interest organization, prosecutors wrote. I wonder who that man is and to what degree he knew what was going on. That's, I guess, that's the big headline. So the Russians will do anything to spy on us, interfere with our democracy, compromise our president. They'll do anything. And what does Congress do about it? Nada. Please call Congress and demand that they impeach the President of the United States for treason now. That's, the biggest spender of political ads on Facebook, President Trump. I don't think we're surprised, are we? I don't know, do I have any interesting Facebook notifications? Sorry, I'm just trying to reorient myself here. Trump. Oh, I don't want to watch myself. That's weird. Business Insider. This is interesting. This is reported from Business Insider. National security experts warn Trump is behaving more and more like a controlled spy. That's chilling. Because what does a spy do? Gives back information to his boss. What is Trump, if this is true, what would Trump be spying on? What would Trump be giving to Putin? What did Trump give to Putin in that 2-hour conversation in which no one else was in the room but interpreters? Here. National security experts warn Trump is behaving more and more like a controlled spy. Here's the here's the gist of it. National security experts have reached a consensus. Russian President Vladimir Putin played U.S. President Donald Trump like a fiddle during their summit in Helsinki on Monday. When asked whether he believed Putin or the U.S. intelligence community on Russia's election interference, Trump said he didn't, quote, see any reason why it would be, close quote. Adding that Putin, quote, was extremely strong and powerful in his denial, close quote. One intel veteran and longtime former CIA spy said he wasn't surprised by Trump's fawning over Putin because, quote, it's becoming more and more clear that Trump is either a witting or unwitting Russian asset. Shoo. Okay, so who are these people, right? We need to hold this article accountable for citing their sources properly. They're saying this is the broad consensus of national security and intelligence veterans. One such, oh no, okay. Let's see if we can get a, okay, so here's one name. Robert Dietz, a former top lawyer at the CIA and National Security Agency, said he was beyond shocked to hear Trump's comments. Quote, we're all sort of used to Trump by now, and you say to yourself that we've gone as low as we can, and then you see what he said, and it's so much worse than you'd think, Dietz said. Doing this in front of a foreign leader, and that too is someone who's an adversary and not an ally, is unimaginable. William Pomeranz, the deputy director of the Kennan Institute for Advanced Russian Studies at the Woodrow Wilson Career, echoed that view. Okay, so experts that study how Russia employs spies are saying Trump kind of fits the mold in his behavior. Trump essentially disowned the results of his own intelligence services, right, like Bob Venanzi was saying, and believed Vladimir Putin, Pomeranz said, it's one thing for him to say, that in a room by himself. It's another situation when he has Putin right next to him and in theory can challenge him and voice the US's absolute rejection of what happened during the election, and yet he couldn't bring himself to do that. This is a sobering article. One person says, the president of the United States may have been compromised by Russia. Glenn Carle, I think that's how you pronounce it. Glenn, C-A-R-L-E, Glenn Carle, a longtime former CIA spy, said he wasn't the least bit surprised by Trump's actions because, quote, it's becoming more and more clear that Trump is either a witting or unwitting Russian asset. People say this is so mystifying, but it's not, Carl said. Intelligence assets become convinced to be spies for multiple reasons. It might start with financial hooks, and the asset may be convinced he's acting as a patriot until he becomes accustomed to his role. The expert added, Trump clearly responds favorably to praise. Yeah, so true. And over the years, the handling officer, Putin in this case, realizes what the asset wants, and that's what they provide. Trump wants to be told he's the greatest, so that's what you tell him over and over again until he comes to believe that this is the motivation for his actions. Chilling, understanding how these, how Putin operates with his spies, right? One former senior intelligence official who requested anonymity because they are not directly involved in the proceedings emphasized that they absolutely believe Putin has something on Trump. There are 4 possibilities, this person told Business Insider. One is that Trump is not very smart. That's what I was saying before. The second is that he's lazy and incurious. Very close to the same thing. The third is that he's acting this way toward Russia because of some financial desire, like building a Trump Tower in Moscow. The fourth is that the Russian leader has something serious on him from either a business or personal standpoint. My money is on the latter two, they said. Yeah, so this, I would say, is a pretty important article. Anyway, as much as I wish that I could stay up all night and just continue doing this and spread the word, I'm going to call it a night because I have to eat dinner and the wife will be home soon. So I'm just going to make some concluding remarks. A summary, if you will, right? Because I'm a writing tutor, so I think of things in terms of crafting an essay. And in the conclusion, you review your main points, and then you leave your audience with a kicker, your readers with a kicker, a so what in your last sentence. So here we go. Today, argued the case for Trump's impeachment. And I argued that every one of us has a responsibility to demand that Congress impeach the president. I said we should call our member in the House of Representatives, and we should call our senators. Even though the Senate can't directly impeach the president, they can urge and pressure the House of Representatives to do so. And they ought to. The fact that this aberrant, treasonous behavior on the part of the president persists and they do nothing about it suggests that they're having serious ethical lack of ethics, lack of conscience. I talked about the role of conscience, right? I'm not doing this for people to say Sean O'Connor's cool. I'm doing this because I hope to say I agree with Sean that we should call Congress. And I even hope that you were moved today to tell those you loved that they should call Congress and have the president impeached immediately. You know, your friends and family and your Facebook friends and people on Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. So my final point, right, is just that this is dangerous. Trump is, objectively speaking, committing treason as Bob Benanzi put out on the comments here, as he said, Trump's most recent act of treason was believing Putin over American intelligence agencies. What happens if Trump continues to listen not to our intelligence agencies, but to Putin? What happens to our country? What bad, damaging, dangerous things can happen to us? This is a threat to our national security, and Congress needs to act now and do something. And I urge you to spread that message and act yourselves and demand this of Congress. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your generosity. God bless you. Please have a good night.